President Trump overnight on Truth Social, who simply said, "We got him," before providing new details that dozens of U.S. military aircraft were used to retrieve him as U.S. leadership tracked his location. It was a daring operation that included hundreds of U.S. forces racing against the clock to rescue the crew member. Fox News has learned that after the fighter jet was shot down on Friday, the weapons systems officer hiked to an elevated mountain ridge where he hid and waited for retrieval. The pilot of the jet was rescued by U.S. Special Forces on Friday, but President Trump said they waited to confirm as to not jeopardize the second operation. The president added, quote, "This is the first time in military memory that 2 U.S. pilots have been rescued separately deep in enemy territory." The IDF said they avoided striking this area as American planes and helicopters flew at a low altitude, hoping to find any sign of the service member. Israeli forces, however, ramped up airstrikes over the weekend in other areas, targeting Iran's petrochemical plants. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu added this about the operation.
I promised you that we would continue to crush the terrorist regime in Tehran, and that is exactly what we are doing. After we destroyed 70% of their steel production capacity, which serves as raw material for their weapons, today we struck the petrochemical plants.
While Israel went on the offensive, they also took numerous incoming ballistic missiles over the weekend. Despite mostly hitting civilian targets in Israel, Iran has threatened to ramp up attacks with newer, more advanced missiles. They're also threatening to shoot down additional U.S. planes.
The enemy should know that we rely on new air defense systems built by the young, knowledgeable, and proud people of this country, unveiling them one after another in the field. We will certainly achieve full control of our country's skies and prove the humiliation of the weak enemy to the world more than ever.
Intelligence of the U.S. military. Remember, hundreds of U.S. forces landed south of the Iranian city of Isfahan undetected, and they were able to make their way to this U.S. crew member who was missing for nearly 48 hours, hiding in a mountain range, and ultimately rescue their colleague and get him out of enemy territory. The Iranians can say that they have air superiority. The reality is quite different. U.S. forces not only were able to send in those special operators on the ground, but they were also watching from above. This was being monitored by President Trump and top U.S. generals for 2 days straight. And whenever Iranians approached this area where the crew member was hiding, they were struck. And this, again, speaks to the intelligence and how the United States was watching. The president made clear on Truth Social last night this U.S. crew member was never alone because the United States had this advanced technology, the beaker inside the suit of this individual, so that they could transmit their location to U.S. forces. The CIA was involved. These ground forces and special operators, along with dozens of U.S. military aircraft, landed there in Iran. This is deep inside enemy territory, and were able to take the fight to the Iranians and ensure that the suppression fire was accurate, so these Iranians were not able to approach. Remember, the Iranians had put out a request for civilians in Iran and a reward of thousands of dollars if they could capture this U.S. crew member. And they were unable to do so because of the deception campaign that was waged by the CIA to make the Iranians think that this individual was already in U.S. hands. While that was taking place, a massive operation was underway at the highest levels of the U.S. military and government to send in these special forces undetected south of this major Iranian city where there are thousands of Iranian military structures. And they were able to ultimately rescue this U.S. crew member and safely get not only the crew member, but all of these special operators out of Iranian territory.